This conference will now be recorded.
Members present. So I guess I'm ready for a motion to approve the agenda.
Oh, I guess I'm
Y'all
getting,
don't
they're all fighting over.
don't hit each other on the way out the door.
All right. Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda today.
Second.
Okay, got a motion, a second. Any objection? Okay, passes. Approval of minutes. What's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we consider the approval of the September 1, 2022 regular meeting minutes.
Second.
You want to try both of them at once?
I don't know whether the clerk will let me.
We can, or even with minutes, if there's just no vote's not even necessary unless you want one.
Well, I had a phone call questioning my way I rule on things, so we're going to do votes. So, all right, I got a motion second for the September 1st meeting. Any opposition or any changes, deletions? We're popular today. Welcome, Joe.
You got that seat, buddy.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I did the same thing. Any objection? Hearing none, they're approved. September 12th special meeting, gentlemen.
Councilor Parrish, your turn.
I don't have any problems with any of them. Make a motion we approve as presented. The minutes from the Monday, September 12th.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any additions, corrections, or deletions? Hearing none. Any opposed? Hearing none, passes. Okay, we're non-action items, information report found on page 8.
Okay, Mr. Chair, committee members, just on the gross receipts tax report for September, actual collected is $3.6 million. We anticipated at least we're going to receive $3 million. So that is a positive variance of $600,000. As you can see there, our current line is above our budget for the last 3 months. We'll go to the next slide. And here we're just showing, tracking the comparison from last fiscal year from budgeted to actual. So as of September, we are $1.8 million in GRT above the budgeted estimates, which is good. I think we talked about this, I think towards the end, if this trend continues, hopefully we'll be closer to the $6 million. Yeah. Next slide. Cannabis.
Hold on. Anybody got any questions about the gross receipt? Okay,
That was for the last quarter. So this is the whole quarter of the year now where we're.
correct.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to talk about quarterly report here in a little bit. Yeah. Okay,
All right.
about cannabis.
Cannabis, for the month of September, we received 17,927. So it continues to increase now that there's more and more activity. We'll start creating a graphical representation of just so that we can start seeing the trends. First month was really low, so we'll start doing that for coming months. But at least we had, and then, any questions on cannabis?
Yeah, when will we know what our September number is? They don't coincide with the GRT?
They posted around the same time. However, this last time GRT was out earlier than the cannabis report. That's why I didn't have those numbers. I emailed the original.
We'll talk to those guys at Tax and Rev.
I don't know if they're using it or something that's claimed that.
They wouldn't do that.
Right. We'll go to the next slide. Okay, and that concludes.
Okay.
Here to
About cannabis real quick, besides the one that's already been asked. Okay.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, this is the lodger's tax update for July. We do have La Quinta who paid late along with Clarion for June and July occupancy. Our STAR data shows that we're about 70.4% for that month, and our ADR increased about 8% higher than 2020.
We'll back up just for a minute. Okay, so the first bullet point is on one particular property. The second bullet is year-to-date. Is that what?
No, just for that month, just for the month of July.
Okay, thank you.
And that is for, so we subscribe to the STAR report, which is just the hotels that provide data. It does not include our 12 economy hotels like the Crane Motel and those types of hotels. So just for the month of July. In this next slide, we went back and redid the numbers to kind of go with how you guys requested the information. So the money being collected during that month. So for example, using the previous slide for La Quinta and Clarion, even though they are late for July, they've now since turned it in September. That money doesn't reflect in July, it's going to reflect in September. So previous lodgers tax reports,
What schedule is that in here? I think it's in here, is it not?
yes, on the UFO report. Or,
No, in the
packet?
in the back.
I don't know what page it is on the packet. I don't, try not to waste a bunch of trees, I'm sorry.
Juan, is this report on the front side of the back? of the
35,
packet?
page 35.
Page what?
35.
35?
Thank you.
Oh, wait,
56.
56. I really
56?
can't read, yeah, 56. Thank you for reading your packet. So we went back and
Maybe being dyslexic.
we, fiscal year 20, fiscal year 21 and 22, those are all brand new numbers in each month that now reflect the money that was collected in that month, not the occupancy. And the same on the next slide for the bed fee. You'll also notice, if you go back to the other one too, at the bottom, we still kept February was that increase. And then I just put a little note that we've updated it. Moving forward, we're going to continue when the money is collected. In public affairs, we're going to keep track for occupancy because that's really where we need to look at to make sure that our numbers. So, any questions?
Do you have a budget amount? Do we have a budget amount for this income stream or no? Or we just take it as it is?
Yeah, we have a budgeted number.
I'd like to see how we do against what our budgeted number is in the future, just so we have an idea.
The GRT? Yeah, okay.
Same thing with the
Occupancy.
occupancy tax as well. Just so we can track it against the budget.
Any questions, members?
We are running a little behind on our lodger's tax from the previous year.
We are, yes. Which is kind of, it's unique and different. There's a lot of factors, inflation is up. We currently do not have a tourism campaign, which could be part of it. You will also see some decline as we go into the low season for tourism as well. So November, December numbers should be pretty relatively low. We start picking back up March, April, May, June.
Yeah, same correlation with the bed fee. It's below what we did the previous year as well.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah, we got 4 months there. Historically, it looks to me like from December to really into 8. Well, looks like better part of 4 months there. I see a kick up in April in 22.
And that would be reflective of like our spring breaks that occur in March because we're always a month behind.
Yeah. Well, you got Parents' Day at the Institute, that kicks it up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that our December bowl game will have a significant increase for us this year. The convention center is also hosting another event that we're targeting the El Paso market. So with the combination of having both of those events combined, we also have our plan for sports tourism for the spring that can kind of help offset, if we're really busy during those months, it can offset some of the lower months. And the same thing that is the bed fee number. Those are also in your packet. And so we are updating the website to reflect this new reporting, and we're just making a memo to let the public know the past reports reflect different, the way we were analyzing the data differently.
Understand. Okay. Any other questions on these 2 items? Okay, let's talk about the UFO.
All right. So I have Renee Puckett. She is our event coordinator. And then we have a new packet that we would like to distribute to you guys that includes some new numbers. Most of the data remained the same, but there was a little bit of confusion on salary employees versus hourly employees. So we wanted to make sure you had the most data of total cost to the city. So we updated this spreadsheet, and I'm going to let Renee do the presentation.
I'll let her hand it out first.
And when the packets went out, the document in there had some, that's why there's a handout. That's why there's a handout, so.
Get to the bottom of this, I don't know where to start.
And so I'll start with the purpose of the festival. In our mind, when we did it in this past year, the goal and intention was to create an event that was an interactive experience for visitors. It was not to make money. It was not to really kind of cover costs, but if we did, that was a win-win too. But the biggest component was to provide an economic impact to the community of Roswell with our local businesses, area attractions. And so I'm going to let Renee kind of take it over and walk you through some of the event detail. We also updated the spreadsheet based on how you would like the numbers to look. Keep in mind, we're not number people, so thank you, Jamie, for your support in helping us do that. And then we will stand for any questions. So Renee?
Let me ask a quick question.
Sure.
I've got it down here under attendance.
Mhm.
On page 5, it talks about outside attendees
Mhm.
versus attendees.
So
We've got 2,500 people or 1,500 people. What's the difference there?
So the difference there is that the outside attendees are people that came from outside of Roswell. They're not local.
Okay,
How far?
In the data, with using the data that we put in, this is an economic impact estimate from the New Mexico Tourism Board, the tool that they provide.
So to reflect, my question was, is this number included in the 36, or is the 36 need to be added to the 2.1 or 2.1? For a total.
The orange section of that, this is the attendees that attended our concert. And so this section here, we used our concert because we had ticket sales that came in, so we were able to track where the people were coming from. Because
I think he's asking, is the 2141 part of the 3630?
You don't add,
Oh, yes, it
you
is.
don't add those two numbers together. They're the one,
Not add them
30
together.
3,100 is who went to the concert.
Yes,
And then out of those, 2,100 of them were
yes.
outside attendees from outside our zip code.
So this is
Yeah.
just the.
This is just what's,
So
Just- just
that's a
concert.
percentage of the total.
Got it.
So out of the total outside attendees in orange, 2,141 of them came from outside of Roswell and surrounding areas. Sorry. did I miss-
Mr. Chairman,
What's up at the first?
You have a question down here.
Point 3 is the one that worries me.
Mr. Chairman, and also originally, because of the pandemic or whatever, there were, how many tickets were originally going to be sold? Was it 2,000, 3,000?
It kept changing, only
Started out at what?
at 3,000-ish.
And it made us, okay. So we ended up with more, so that's good. We were able to oversell what our expectation was for the concert. That's what I was trying to find out.
Also, the numbers that I used for the ticket sales were not just for the concert, they were all ticket sales. So that, it included the alien chase, the alien crawl, everything that we sold tickets to. So that data was used in the estimation. So if we're looking at the economic impact estimate report and we're only using the data from the people that we sold tickets to, we actually have a higher amount of people that came in, that were at the festival that didn't purchase tickets. But this was the actual data that we could use, this data segment that I was able to use for the estimate.
How did Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
How did the QR code with the pot or the prize, how did that go with trying to keep track with people?
It was lower than what we would have liked it to be, but it was good data for data collection. And that's where we break it up in here. So we're not just throwing numbers and saying, oh, there was thousands and thousands of people. We're actually using the data from the survey. Renee, would you like to add anything to that?
Yes, it was low, but we did get a lot of good information from it. So we were able to figure out where they were from, how much they spent on food and beverage, how much nights they stayed when they were here. And so it was.
Work better than just the traditional way of putting a table under a tent,
Yes.
asking, yeah, okay.
Yes, and we also got feedback, which is on the back of the report. The feedback came from that survey. So anyway, so out of the 34 events that we put together, 19 of them were put on by the city. And you can go to the next slide. Out of the events that we had put on, we had the Galaxy Fair, the Kids Zone, and UFO Walk of Fame, which I would consider to be more of, they were free, obviously, so we didn't make any money off of them. The Galaxy Fair and Kids Zone, I believe, created free events to come for people to come to, and it was accessible to everybody. The Walk of Fame, for instance, is a long-term investment, in my opinion, because we are going to be growing that over years. Over the years, we'll keep doing that. And eventually, the idea of that is to be like Hollywood, where you come to Roswell and you get to walk the UFO Walk of Fame. So that could be a long-term investment for tourism. And you can go to the next slide. As far as the ticket events that we had, we did the night sky and the morning hike and the alien crawl. And these prices were set to be affordable. And it was the first year for the alien crawl, but it was actually one of the reported favorite events that we had. We didn't make a lot of money back on it. Well, actually, we didn't make money back at all. We were a little shy, but it was a hit. And people have been asking about next year, wanting to come back and do it again. So it would be nice to be able to figure out a way to make that more profitable for us. The transportation is the issue on that one. You can go to the next slide. And then, of course, we had our main concert. We targeted nearby areas that would normally come to Roswell, such as Lubbock, local, West Texas, Albuquerque, and Arizona. And it also provided something for locals to do as well, and visitors. You can go to the next slide. And then we have our general expenses. Out of the general expenses, I broke it down into 4 categories. We have consumable expenses, expenses that we cannot use again. So those would include our tents, our tables, chairs, tablecloths, things like that we needed to set up, for the events. And then supplies were basically like water, tape, zip ties, things like that we needed to set things up with. And then general expenses, special event, reusable for future UFO includes tents that we bought that were UFO branded tents. And then general expenses, special event, not specific to UFO, was tents that we bought for that are City of Roswell branded tents. So those we will use for, we'll use at the visitor center. We'll use those for other events throughout the year. And the same with the supply, the category, the $3,555.18 are things that we purchased that we will be using all throughout the year for a lot of different things. And then the general expenses, special events not specific to UFO, that was some electrical work that was done at DeBremen. So that actually really wasn't just specifically for UFO Festival, but it was paid for out of that. You can go to the next.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Is that just electric? That was just a one-time thing that anytime we have someone have to come back, or is that permanent? to
It's
the-
permanent.
Okay,
So it will benefit,
we
anything
benefit our
we have to
property,
do-
so, okay.
yes. And also Roswell School District too, because they
Right.
use that field. So if they, need to bring in equipment to repair anything, that the issue that we had was that there was a wire that was way too low. So you wouldn't be able to bring in a large truck or anything like that into the area. So we just had it raised so that we could bring equipment in.
Go to the next slide.
Okay, and then as far as advertising goes, the advertising that we did, we did spend quite a bit of money on advertising. However, the majority of that came out of the lodgers tax fund and tourism. And we are required actually to spend 40% anyway of the, out of that for advertising. So that is a requirement.
Part of.
And one of the things that we were, the UFO Festival is one of the biggest things that we do. So we did do advertising for UFO Festival out of that, 40%. I keep wanting to say 41, it's 40%. And all of the advertising that we did was not just for the city of Roswell's, events. It was for everybody. So everybody that had something going on, the UFO Museum, the Roswell Daily Record, the Roswell Invaders, and you can see over to the right, that was our main ad right there that we did. And we advertised, pretty much everything. We did and we were constantly running ads for everyone, for the entire city. Next one. And then you all had asked about payroll and how much money the city spent on labor citywide for UFO Festival. This is data from the 2 weeks, the payroll ending on the 30th of June, and then the next pay period, which I believe is the 12th. No, it would be the 14th. And so the 2 weeks prior and the 2 weeks after. And then, so this is a 4 period of time for payroll. And it also includes salaried employees for public affairs and the visitor center.
There was a specific code that was set up that they used, the employees used. And that's where we got the information from, is any employee that used that code. And then any salaried people, Juanita, they came up with the list and we calculated that in there.
We only use the payroll for 2 weeks prior. And
Well, we used the payroll, the data for the 30th, the 1st and the 2nd.
It could have been expenses previous that staff could have been doing.
And that would be reflected in the visitors.
We're better next year with making sure that they get coded
I would-
appropriately. That was the challenge we had, is that some coded it properly, some did not. So as we went back, we tried.
I think you're working on this thing all year long.
There are some, yes.
Yeah, some people are working on this.
There are.
So like, I'm going to use Renee for an example. So her job is event coordinator for the city. Her primary function and role is UFO Festival.
Right.
But she also has other community events. So National Night Out with our PD, Art and Science Festival coming up. So we don't really track like how much did she spend on this, but overall, that's her job, like the events, even like with some of our salary,
Get an
like
average.
during,
I'm okay with that. All I'm trying to see is what is our real
Right.
cost?
Sure.
Measure that against your economic benefit
Correct.
and see what your return is. I'm not against any of this. I just want to, what is the real cost to put this event on?
and I think for the other departments, it's primary for those 3 days.
Right.
For our line item, it could be 2 weeks prior and 2 weeks.
Could be 6 months.
Right.
Well, yeah, because we just had a UFO web meeting when was it, Tuesday, where we were talking about the redesign of the website. That was an hour, but I also did other things and so did they, so, yeah. But this is the best estimate. We do have a plan for next year for other staff. Because, for example, there were a couple on there that said, hey, yes, we went and volunteered or we worked, and they clocked in and used the code, but we weren't exactly sure if the hours were correct. So we're going to actually have them sign in with us, whoever the team captain is, and then sign out. And then we can give that and verify with HR that the code was entered correctly.
Yes, and we actually have the sign-in sheets this year that a lot of the employees couldn't sign in because they weren't in a position where they could come and sign in. So we created sign-in sheets and we wanted to have, everyone, volunteers, anybody that was working during that weekend sign in, but it was just it was difficult with, some people just
Following instructions, so.
or, they're dumping trash and, okay, and then out of I just also want to point out, if you could go back, that we did have 53 volunteers, and using the New Mexico rate, sector rate, volunteer rate, it's in the report. I actually have the link to where this is, sorry. But we saved $8,565.50 on having volunteers. And you can go to the next. And then our in-kind cost savings, we saved money with sponsors, negotiated discounts on services, and received equipment donations. And then out of all of this section here, I estimate that we saved $87,839.50 on in-kind revenue considerations. And then revenue and expenses, we had the sources are donations, ticket sales, reimbursement, and vendors. And over on the right, you can see it's $63,475.69 that was deposited. That is not ticket sales. That is not including ticket sales. That is in
For the concert.
for the concert and also the alien crawl.
But it does include the alien chase ticket sales and all the other ones that were done, not specific by public affairs, but in conjunction with public affairs.
And then other revenue from other flags, so the golf course, the zoo, the convention center, the museum, and the visitor center brought in $68,560.41. I don't have my glasses on. And then we can go to so total expenses were $429,446.73. That is everything. That is special events, that's tourism and labor. Oh, that's total cost. Total revenue was $216,808.60. And you can go to the next slide.
Question.
Okay.
This 87,000 that you have in kind, that's not in any of your total expense or total revenue. That's just for information purposes only that you receive in kind.
Yes.
So it's not included.
It's not included, no,
Not counted.
because it was not actually deposited. It's just,
Total cost, you're saying it's 212,000.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's that number.
When
Yeah.
you subtract, well, if you
Take the
include,
expenses minus the
yes,
Yeah.
yes, 212. Mhm.
actual cost of the city was 212.
Yeah.
And you take your economic impact, you get a 10-1.
Correct. Yeah. So that the total economic impact, and we talked about that when the report was first granted, was what is the impact to the hotels? What's the impact to the restaurants and everything? So a little over $2 million was generated as direct impact to the city. And so the city was able to recover all the money, but $212,000 based upon that. So it's a 10-1, I think is what you said.
Well, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we, city put out 216,000. You're saying we got economic impact of over $2 million. So I'm just taking the economic impact, divide that, and you get a 10-1 return
That's
on
that
your money,
Yep.
is what I think I'm reading it.
And that's direct for that weekend. And we've always said UFO Festival brings people.
I'm just looking at the direct, and I'll take a 10-1 return
Yes,
on anything, any day,
Yes, sir.
if that's what we're getting out of this. So
next slide. Okay, so this brings us back to the economic impact estimate report. So the total, 2.75 was the average nights that visitors came and stayed in Roswell. That's the based off of our survey data. 27% of the concert attendees were from out of the state or country. Estimated revenue generated on those 27% only on this economic impact tool, I was conservative. I only used what was out of state or country for the numbers because I don't know, we don't really know exactly how many people stayed. And it estimated that $757,957 were generated just from occupancy over that weekend. Food and beverage, the average spend was $158.25. And using using a low number of $25 spent per day on other expenses. The calculator estimates that we generated over $1 million in food and beverage spending over those 3 days. And then the other spending is $181,500. And that comes from the $25 per day that I estimate, or that I put in as a low number. So as you can see, this is just like a low, it's a picture. It's an estimate. The numbers are actually kind of low because, and next slide.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question on that? Very similar to your initial question on the orange section. Renee, when we're talking about the total impact up there, the total direct and economic impact we're showing is $2.2 million. And then this is total outside economic impact is 1.6. That is the money that came in from outside of our region. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You don't add those two numbers together. So the total impact of the UFO festival was 2.2 million of economic impact.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
1.6 came from out of the state or the country.
Yes, and that's good to know.
Just trading dollars inside our community.
Yeah. 1.6 is new dollars.
Right. That's what you're always looking for.
Gross receipts tax came in, and for the month of July, it was $56 million.
We pulled on this one. It's kind of, we don't really know how to pull it. So we pulled the department or the industry, thank you, that we felt would have the impact to tourism.
And I would say that this is not gross receipts tax alone. This is total sales.
Yes.
56 million of total sales for that period of time in those classifications. It's not the gross receipts because we only get $3 million a year or a month on gross receipts. So that number is actually the total sales number off that
RP 500. That is correct. And that report is attached to every GRT posting. And it just provides all of the industries.
Yeah.
These are those that are related to tourism.
So we can't compare this number back to our gross receipts number, but we'll be able to correlate between total sales from a year ago to this year, and we don't have that information. But I think you had some percentages in there that were showing that we were seeing an increase.
If you take our food and beverage, where we get 2% out of the
right,
dollars,
yeah,
that's 20 grand.
Yeah,
out of $1 million that's food and beverage that you suggested.
Right.
We have. So your 212 goes down, and then the turnaround of the money. If you just take the $2 million impact, take that times 2%,
right,
and that's our direct should be a.
That should equate somewhere in our in what we're receiving. Yep.
40 grand.
Yeah, and it was over $1 million higher than last July 2021. So this is for the data that I used. I collected information from the UFO Festival survey, ticket sales data, from solid waste collection, from the visit widget data, from gross receipts and lodgers tax. And then these are our numbers here. This survey by zip code, our ticket sales are at the top, 59% from other New Mexico cities and 41% from surrounding areas. And then the other one is 76 and 24 for the survey. You can go to the next slide. And then this is a map of where all of our attendees came for the concert. So this is the concert data and where people, all the red dots are where people live. You can go to the next slide. And then this is from our City Roswell app. We launched it just a few months before UFO Festival. And prior to UFO Festival, we had 33 users per week in the 4 weeks leading up to it. And during the week of the UFO Festival, we saw an increase of 236% in users. So that's quite a significant increase over UFO. You can switch to the next slide. Our sanitation, so what we did is we looked at the Environmental Protection Agency publishes a municipal solid waste tax and figures report that measures the success of materials management. And in 2018, they published a report that said that the average person uses 4.9 pounds of trash per day. And that, is, by the way, is the latest report that they have published. And you can see that during the week of June 17th through the 23rd, we generated 1.79 million pounds. And that correlates, when you do the math, to about 52,000 people. And then the following week after that, when we did the math on that, we were looking at 74,000. And then the week of July 1st through the 7th, it was 93,000.
Mr. Chair, now I'll take that a little bit farther. I was doing some math with that, and that's on that page 22. So we have two services that actually will function for us to tell us what's changed within our population. Trash is one of them. Wastewater treatment is the other one. And we can calculate within that as to how many more customers or how many more people are delivering that. When I take in that 93,000 in the blue, that was the week of the event. If you take out our 48,400 people that are currently here, that leaves us with 44,600 people that we can estimate came to the UFO Festival during that weekend. So we had 44,000 more people in based upon how these numbers are looking, based upon the amount of trash that was generated. So that's just an average, that's just an estimate, but that's essentially, that gets us beyond the who came to the concert. This is everybody that came through at some point in time. And then I think we could correlate back out based upon where the outside impact is to the direct impact, and that number would change as to how many people came from farther away. So
did we compensate the sanitation department for this increase?
we did pay for it, I
They
believe.
charge us for their loss.
You sent an invoice out to.
Yeah. Yeah, and the good thing is that we're able to use the lodger's tax for some of that as well too, because that's sanitation, police and fire. Yep.
Yep.
So, yeah, those costs were covered.
Just want to protect his budget.
Yeah, should.
And
Thank you.
this is the wrap up. So again, just the purpose and the goal of the festival was to provide that interactive experience for our visitors. Again, to grow the UFO Festival brand while providing an economic impact to our businesses here. We kind of put the total cost to the city, then we rounded out with $2 million for that impact here. And then the food and beverage was estimated at a little over 1, and just kind of rolled in all those numbers. And we will stand for any questions.
I would tell you, if anybody will look at that, I'd change that number from 429.
To down to the 212.
Real cost.
To the 212.
Yeah.
Because that recovered the rest of it.
You recovered. So.
We will do that.
I mean,
Make
just,
that adjustment. Yep.
because somebody's gonna look at that and go, well, that's
Way more than we think.
And this is the first year that they've actually put a report together this comprehensive. And so anything you guys would like to see a little bit different and everything, we'd appreciate that help as well too, because I think we want to see a clearer picture as to what that economic benefit was.
Correct.
As well as what we're investing into it.
No, I agree with you, Mr. Neighbor, that. And the other one, I guess, did you run these against a budget? Do you sit down and try to budget what you think this is going to cost?
So, yes, so and that's where this total amount, we have a few line items that we budget out of. So fire, police, sanitation out of the lodger tax line item. Then we have the special event line item for like entertainment, all those other expenses
Right.
that's out of general fund. Then we have our other advertising, which is out of the lodger's tax. But yes, we have a budget for each one that we.
It shows, it doesn't, I mean,
Right.
because you're right, you're taking it out of a different fund,
Correct.
but you're just looking at the total budget, what it costs. And then wherever you take it out of. So is the 429 the actual total cost?
Yes.
Doesn't matter what.
Yeah.
Yes,
pocket you
total
take out of
cost, yes.
Out of everything, including.
Everything.
Everything. Payroll, every line item within the city. HR's payroll line, facility maintenance, when they came to help us offload some flats and
Yeah.
work on the air conditioner. So every different line item
Yeah.
that's in there.
Okay, no, it just gives a perfect cost of what.
So that hopefully that gives you the numbers you needed or wanted to know for sure.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to know if the
Yep.
10-to-1 return on the money.
Yep.
My gosh. Can I invest in that?
We'd appreciate that. Yeah.
And again, if there is a different direction that this group would like us to go, if there's different goal or something in mind, we'd love to hear about it. Our direction and for this next 2023 is we're looking at some entertainment, roughly at about $50,000. But we've been told that if we can save some money other places, right, Janie, I can still use that money. And if we get more sponsorship, I can maybe get a larger type of an entertainment. Based on the survey, the people wanted to see the fire show and the drone show both nights. At this time, we've secured that partnership again, which will be really fantastic. And we're just, we'd love the feedback from you guys. So.
And probably, just to reiterate just a little bit of that, the direction that we're going to go is that we're going to lean on, this last year was a milestone event. It was a 75th of the crash. And so that was a bigger event than what we would normally have done every year with this. What we want to do next year is kind of follow the same vision, but we're going to lean a little bit more on some sponsorships and donations rather than just our investment completely. So that sponsorship contribution. So if everybody, at some point in time, we need to kind of say this is where we're going to head. And if everything works well, then we'll go that route. But I think that's where we're at. We're trying to figure out exactly what pieces to put together now.
We can get a national sponsor. It would be great.
We believe that we've talked to them over the years. I think even when Main Street was still doing it 4 years ago, we were talking to a couple national sponsors. And so we believe they're out there.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman. And it just, with this data, which is the best data y'all produced to date, I mean, y'all have always done a great job in giving the information, but you keep getting better and better and getting us the information that's necessary. But with data like this, getting those national sponsors, when you've got data like this to put in front of them and show them what that bang for your buck's going to be. Then the other thing I just wanted to say, if nobody else has told you, we appreciate what y'all are doing. It's a great job. It really is. Just, we enjoyed it. I know my kids really enjoyed the laser show, or whatever you call those drones. And it's just a great thing. And people were out there enjoying it. We appreciate it.
Maybe it's a TV show, Ross will be sponsored.
We should be.
They're canceled, but that would.
Cancel it?
They cancel it, but that would be great.
Forget it.
And we do have some grant funding already from the state for this next fiscal year that will help with some of the advertising. And then this data, like you said, will help us with that grant application that will be due in March, because this is really the first time we as a city actually have true data, like true numbers from the participants that are coming through. In 2019, the city paid for the Southwest Marketing and Research Report when Main Street was doing it, and we had some data collection from that. But this is our first time that it's large.
Well done.
Any other questions? Mr. Murray, you want to chime in?
One thing, the grant money we had, that was at 200,000 or something, 400,000, but we had to spend 200,000 or something, or 200.
No.
No, that's separate. That's on this agenda item. That's Air Center money
Different.
for marketing and advertising, but not part of this.
That's item number 7. What was the grant for the this last year?
The grant for this next year, we have $10,000 in Facebook and Google Play advertising. So when somebody's on Google Play, that our little ad will pop up a 15-second and 30-second spot. And then we also have search engine optimizations where when people are looking for events or concerts, we're going to come up higher in that search for that. And it's up to $10,000.
Yeah, I think you had a $10,000 grant, so I saw.
Correct.
It was a great five-letter word grant.
Anybody else?
The 64.
Other than fine tuning the tracking, a little bit of tracking on employee costs. I think that's all I have at this point, but this is a lot of information to try to digest. So over the incoming months, there may be more inquiry.
We welcome that. Renee, can you give Lisa? Thank you.
Okay.
Change that number in there, Lisa.
212 in that last slide.
Change that last slide so people don't think we spent 429.
Yeah, 212 was the top, was the investments.
Right. Was the cost.
Investment. We got 21.
Sound like somebody in
That's
a little further north. It's always an investment when they're spending tax dollars.
Yeah, but if you got 2.1 million back,
Yeah.
that is an investment.
That's true.
Okay. That was an in-depth report. Thank you. So any other information reports? Okay, moving on. Let's do the authorizing of disposable property.
Mr. Chair, committee members, I scoured the city just so I could find some items to come and visit with you guys.
Yeah, it looked like
You're missing us so much, huh?
Yes. So this is just our regular disposable property. A lot of stuff out of the fire department that was old and they've gotten rid of. And then down at the bottom, there's some stuff out of the airport.
Okay.
I see the de-icing truck. I assume the de-icing truck. And this is just a spare that we just need to get rid of.
It was replaced, and so that one's obsolete.
Okay. I was going to ask about that, but it sounded like it's already been answered. Okay, you have your list. Any questions? Anybody else? Okay. What's your pleasure?
Glad you got to see me.
We're happy to see you.
Speak for yourself.
As I told him, I'm always happy to see him. He's putting money in the pockets. So.
Yeah.
But his guy sitting next to him is taking money out of them. Come sit somewhere else next time.
You're talking about the guy sitting on that side.
No.
Good. All right, much pleasure.
Okay.
Well, everybody's headed.
Mr. Chairman, I'll take this one. We'll take them in order, please, gentlemen. Mr. Chairman, I move that we consent item. You guys are fine with that? And put this on the consent item for full council, the approval of resolution 22XX authorizing disposal of certain surplus personal property of the city.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any objection? Passes 4-0. Number 5.
Mr. Chair, committee members, pursuant to the city's purchasing policy, expenditures over 60,000 require city council approval. We'll go to the next slide. Attachment A, Exhibit A. These are the departments that requested authorization to exceed the $60,000 limit. We have ITS Quest for the Recreation Department. That is our temp services for an amount of $105,318. Pool Department, also ITS Quest for $388,000. The Roswell Air Center for Geneva's cleaning service janitorial services at 97,000, and Elwood Temp Agency to also assist the Air Center maintenance facility crew and mowing the grass and all of the facility maintenance that is required at $216,000. We have here Colette to address any questions regarding the recreation and pool department, and myself and Jenna can address the Air Center. If there's any questions, Mr. Chair.
Chairman, this is to bring us up to par. This is for the expected amounts for how long?
This is the expected amount that we anticipate will be spent having these services. And I can, Colette, if you want to address the
For the
recreation.
entire fiscal year?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that was my question.
Anybody else?
These are already in the budget, you're just needing approval.
That's correct.
Yeah, it's just over 60,000, so we have to have
Yeah,
approval.
Okay.
because we've already talked about most of
Yes.
these items once
Yes.
before, so.
Mr. Mayor.
This is all the people who work in the pool. And I don't know what the 105,000 on the recreation, and that's all people that work in the gym and everything at that restaurant. So those people aren't city employees, is that right?
That is correct.
So, okay. And the Geneva's cleaning services, that's just for the terminal, that doesn't have anything to do with Aliyah?
I think this is ILEA, is it not?
It's terminal bills.
This is terminal.
Terminal, because we do have a contract for
At least
separate
Yes.
for
We do have
ILEA.
one.
same company, but
Same
two separate contracts is my understanding.
And then Elwood Tip Agency, is that the terminal? What is that?
That is, Mr. Chair and Mayor, that is for the Air Center, for the facility maintenance and the mowing of the grass, maintaining. So they're part of the facility crew out there.
It could be a part of the Esplanade, any of the city property that's within the Air Center of that work and that maintenance.
That doesn't include,
ILEA.
doesn't include,
It will not include ILEA because I think we're doing that one completely separate with that agreement there.
and that doesn't include anything on the infield inside.
It does. It would include the infield as well as inside the fence and outside. Anything that the city would do, this is some additional help that will help with that.
Because we just bought a new mower.
Yeah.
And that, I guess, was before.
Generally, because of the responsibilities for being inside the fence and being certified, then the temps would not normally be in there.
Right.
They would be out on the outside of the fence, but they could if we wanted to certify them.
Right. I understand.
They could, as long as a badged employee was with them.
Or that way as well too. But yeah,
Well, you could badge.
I think the intent is because the Air Center is responsible for everything out at any city property out there, whether it's in the fence or outside. So that's what these positions are supposed to help with.
Just to give you all an example, I know the perimeter fence needed to be, the weeds needed to be cut, needed to be maintained. So this really helped the crew out there to be able to knock it out within a short period of time. So it's just that additional support they need to be able to keep up with the Air Center.
Okay. Okay. What's your pleasure, John?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we send to City Council recommending approval of purchases over 60,000, or these are all personnel, correct? Our personnel and services. Yeah.
Well, people services.
For Recreation Department, the ITS Quest of 105,318. Pool Department, ITS Quest, 388,304. Roswell Air Center, Geneva's cleaning service for 97,855 and 78 cents. And Elwood Temp Agency, $216,316 to be placed on the consent agenda.
Second.
A motion and a second. Further discussion? Any objection? Passes 4-0. New Jam.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I presented to you back in September, and I was asked to come back to this meeting. So for those of you that were here for it last month, it is the same presentation except for one additional slide. I wanted to provide some additional information. So with that, if we could go to the next slide, please. Again, for those of you that weren't here, our firm, NewGen Strategy Solutions, it's a 50-person firm. All we focus on is the conduct of water, wastewater, solid waste, and electric cost of service studies, feasibility studies. That is what we do. Next slide. Just to give you a little background on myself, I've been involved in the conduct of solid waste cost of service studies for over 30 years now. I've written some of the original manuals on Subtitle D, full cost accounting, when Subtitle D took effect in '93. The primary thing I focus on is the conduct of solid waste cost of service and rate design studies. I've done numerous studies in New Mexico over the last 4 or 5 years for folks like Las Cruces, Santa Fe, South Central Solid Waste Authority, et cetera. Next slide, please. To conduct this municipal solid waste cost of service study, there's 5 basic steps we go through, and that's to, first of all, develop the test year that we're using as the basis for the conduct of quantifying all the costs. We then develop a revenue requirement forecast. We ended up developing a 5-year forecast for the city of Roswell. We also allocated the cost to all your different services. So if trucks, personnel provide a residential service, they are assigned each piece of equipment, each individual to the service they provide. That becomes critical. So when we provide recommended rates to you, which we'll show later in this presentation, those rates are recommended to recover the costs, exactly the costs that they're incurring. Then we look at the number of billing units, whether it's dumpsters, roll-offs, households, et cetera, to determine the cost of service. Next slide, please. Couple key items we wanted to mention that were put into the fiscal year 2021 and 2022 budget. These were some of the major capital items that we included, and it's important. These are items that, and we went back to look at historical purchases as well as the number of frontline pieces of equipment, the needs. And so bottom line, to replace equipment on a regular life cycle, you've got a budget approximately $700,000 a year for collection equipment. For infrastructure at the landfill, it's approximately $230,000 a year. Capital equipment at the landfill, that can include compactors, water tank trucks, things like that. That's approximately $520,000 a year. And then it's important to prepare for closure of the landfill and post-closure monitoring. When you have to monitor this after it's closed, there's no revenue coming in. And so we're putting $100,000 a year that's set aside to cover those costs. And then finally, cell construction. So for future cell construction, cash can be set aside. We also included the debt service of approximately $568,000 that was budgeted. And then finally, the transfer to the general fund, and I'm sorry, that's 6 slid down, so it should be $1,506,886. Next slide, please. So what is the revenue requirement? Bottom line, when we are determining what the total costs are for a solid waste utility, we're looking at their operating and maintenance expenses. Those are your labor costs, fuel, maintenance on the trucks, et cetera. Vehicle replacement, that's just what it says. It's replacing equipment after its useful life. We recommend through rates setting aside cash on an annual basis so you're able to pay cash for it versus having to lease or finance it, especially important now as interest rates are going up. If you can pay cash, a lot of our clients take that approach. And then finally, capital improvement projects, and these refer to larger infrastructure, such as if you were building a new cell at the landfill. That adds up to your total costs or your annual revenue requirement. Next slide, please. So bottom line, what we're forecasting, when we started the study, we're at approximately just under $9 million in fiscal year 2022. In fiscal year 2023, which you're about 3 months into, you're at about $9,227,000. And then you can see it goes up about $250,000 a year, which I would mention is below the inflation rate that we're dealing with right now. So by fiscal year 2026, it's estimated to be just under $10 million to operate the utility, which includes the purchase of all equipment as well as paying for infrastructure needs at the landfill. Next slide, please. So what do we have to do from a rate standpoint to cover all those costs? So your current rate is $17.75 per month per household for residential rates. What we are recommending is the rate be increased to $22.50 effective January 1st, 2023. So that would be in about 2.5 months or so. And then again in fiscal year 2025, at the beginning of the fiscal year, so that would be July 1, 2024, it be raised to $24. I know rate increases aren't popular. I will tell you, virtually all of our clients that I work with, they're above $20 per month per household right now, or raising their rates. That you're below $17.75 is very unusual in this business. I have clients that are in the 20s and going over $30 per month for similar services. Next slide, please. One slide I did not include in last month's presentation, and this was brought to my attention in the memo I drafted that Stephanie Crane, my manager in our firm, and myself put together, dated September 8th. These rates were mentioned in there, but they were not included in the last presentation. So my apology for that. The 300-gallon containers, we're recommending they be increased from $27.22 to $34.50 per month. And then again in fiscal year 2024 to $36.80. Your 3 cubic yard dumpsters, we are recommending larger increases. They are significantly under recovering. And so they are, when I look at those rates that you're charging versus what we see in other cities, and again, there's always exceptions and differences between cities, but there are general trends, and your rates are very low. And so that's why we're recommending the increases you see there of 26.76% at January 1st, 2023, and then the beginning of each fiscal year. So that'd be July 1 of fiscal year 24, 25, and 26. Next slide, please. And then again, with regard to roll-off rates, we're recommending those rates be increased so they're recovering their costs. You can see we're recommending they be increased to $245 from $231.50, and then to $255, $265, $275. And then the landfill, we're recommending the current rates be increased as well from $42.25 up to $45 at the gate rate for your contractual rate customers to $50 per month. And you can see in the outgoing years, again, further increases going up to $2 to $2.50 per ton per year, with the contractual rates going up a little more. Next slide, please. And I don't know what happened. This is what happens sometimes with PowerPoints. The last month when I did this, they were fine, but you can see some parentheses moved here. But bottom line, if you focus on the third line where I show the over under recovery, and we'll focus on fiscal year 2023, if you're implementing those rate increases that we recommended, you'd still under recover $1,124,926. And that's because we're phasing in the rate increases to minimize, rate shock. But you can see by fiscal year 2024, you're under recovering only 161,000. By fiscal year 2025, you're over recovering 300,000. And by fiscal year 26, 417,000. Next slide, please. So that's a lot of the information. I'm glad to take any questions or comments you have at this time.
Questions?
Yeah, can we go back to the last slide? So the revenue requirement, those are really all those expenses that you calculated, correct?
That is exactly correct. So the top line are your costs. Yes.
And so the year one, 2022 is the actual cost for that department for all of those items that you talked about, $8.9 million, correct?
Correct.
So 20 and fiscal year 23, is that coming from the solid waste or the sanitation's budget?
We use their budget as a starting point. The adjustments we made to it, we're looking at the major items were the capital outlays, because capital outlays tend to be volatile. It's not a constant number every year like a person's salary. So we looked at historical purchases as well as a lot of discussions about what they need to replace that's aging. So we took their budget, but then we tweaked it primarily with regard to capital to show what they need, that $9,227,000 to be purchasing that equipment that they need.
Yeah. Do you recall what that number was that you increased it above their budget?
I don't have that exact number offhand. I could get that for you and send it to you, but I don't have that.
I'm just curious because, and the reason I'm asking that, I don't think we're, are we keeping up with inflation on certain line items on that? Because we're going from what you're suggesting is our 23 with some additions to capital of 9.2, and then 24, of course, none of us know what inflation really is, but that's hardly any increase at all.
Yeah. So where you've got it is you're correct. You have some capital in there, but we've increased it for the capital needs you have. We're using to your point, and you bring up a very good point, we're using a 5% growth on capital costs. So it's higher than, other inflation factors. And this is one of the things a lot of our clients we talk with, again, we use what's called a blue chip economic indicator that looks at inflation rates. They're projecting, of course, you're counting on economists to tell you what, they think there's going to happen, and no one knows what's going to happen exactly, but They expect inflation rates to start to go down as you get into 2023, and I'm talking calendar year now, and then into 2024 to hopefully be back around, 2.5–3%. That's what the Fed's working for anyhow. So we use those assumptions going out, but on the capital, that's the one exception. We keep using a 5% growth rate because there's just more uncertainty because of those supply chains. So we're being conservative on that assumption.
Yeah. And you don't take into consideration, do you take into consideration the aging of his equipment, the conditions of equipment?
Yeah, well, one of the things we do there is we look at each piece of frontline equipment, what the age of it is, and we'll talk with staff, how is it doing? Is this something you're doing a lot of maintenance on? But then we'll tend to have a range that we expect to see pieces of equipment operate. And again, I'm a finance guy. I'm not going to tell someone how long, an automated side loader, Heil truck, rapid rail, or what have you supposed to run. But there are general numbers out there that a lot of cities will shoot for, say, around 7 years for a normal life. And so there are industry standards out there.
Yeah, okay. So that's all. That answered my question.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Mayor?
So you went through and looked at all our equipment out there in the landfill and looked, or where are we on a replacement schedule? Stuff that's there. You're saying all that is figured into replacement values into the road revenues into the budget? Jump forward, what do I?
So what I want to clarify, and I'm glad you brought it up, we did not go out and do physical inspections of equipment and do that. That was not part of the cost of service study. What we did was get a listing of all of your equipment
And the year.
what was the front line equipment, how old it was, discussed it with staff, looked at our industry standards to determine what has to be replaced on what schedule from an amortization standpoint. I apologize, there was confusion there.
So, I'm just looking, and then I don't know about on this one, are we setting enough money aside for the sales started and you place that, cities place that money in a box or somewhere where they can't spend it? We have a cell that's good for so many years left. We ought to have enough money set aside in each year where we can at least start a new cell and complete it before the other one's full. Would that be a fair statement?
There is going to be, and I'd let staff talk more to this, there will have to be for some of those major projects, potential bond issue, for those cells, because you don't have enough cash accumulated, but it's going to be manageable with these rate increases.
We don't transfer money out.
I'm sorry?
If we don't transfer money out of the funds, it's manageable.
That's true.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else? Okay, then I guess we're ready to make a decision.
Question
Go ahead.
for staff. That $500,000 infrastructure bond, I saw that on there.
It's built into the numbers.
How much, what's the duration of that?
$500,000 bond for, what's the
That's
duration?
the annual what's the duration of that?
We don't have it in here, the debt schedule.
Went out 20, didn't we not?
Yeah, it was for the 5.1
Usually,
million.
if
So on the company.
usually it's about by that, but usually NMFA, it's not a very long, USDA is longer, 30 years, but NMFA usually about 50.
15 years.
What's the
We got
expected?
14 more years on that thing is what we got.
Yeah.
And those were used for what? Those funds were used for what purpose?
Building the cell and also the purchase of the brand new compactor. It was 1.2 million.
So we got the brand new cell. We have those bonds paid off by the time we need a new cell.
Yes. That's what we're shooting for that. Right?
The time frame works out.
Yes.
I believe that was.
It's pretty close.
So that we're able, because he's saying we're gonna have to go down and get a bond issue for the next cell, or that's what he's suggesting. So I just want,
This one should pay if it lasts 10 years because it was set for 10 years.
it's 10 years. Okay.
Yeah, we're shooting, right now, we're approximating 12 years for the first.
You estimate that you got
5A.
12 years left on it.
So 5A and 4 are going to come together. So right now, that's 4 sitting, it's dropping. So when we get those two together, we're projecting 12 years.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Assuming we don't have some kind of growth spurt.
Correct.
Yes,
Yeah, but
But the next cell, 5C,
5B.
5B is connected, correct? And we're going to be in the process of digging it out as we're using 5A. And all we'll have to do is go in with a liner, correct? And do some other minor.
So
Be a major,
It won't be the $5 million.
won't be a $5 million.
that's correct. So a lot of the earthwork, the 3D surface modeling equipment that was purchased for the equipment that was built into some of the equipment is already there. There's some equipment like some dozers to help us. We'll do the entire rough cut. We'll get it as close as we can. There'll be minimum dirt work right now. So what we do now is we get the dirt from 5B, we excavate it with a scraper and we bring it into 5A. So we're shaping it now.
They're shaping it as we're going along. The major expense is going to be the lining.
The lining is.
The lining, because that's the petroleum portion of it and the cost.
There's a geoliner, and then there's actually, it looks like the same material as 300s. It's and it's welded and tested, so that's a significant amount of cost, but we will be assisting with the earth moving as we speak.
all these bonds are paid off with revenues from solid waste.
Yes, that comes from the fund.
I think we're finished, Bill.
Yeah, I'm waiting for a motion, I think. Everybody
Was he
through?
still on, or does anybody have any questions of him? Because he can leave if we.
What are we looking for motion on? To accept the report, or what are we looking for motion on?
Well, I think that's probably what we need to do. Yes. Yeah.
I'd like to ask Finance Committee to see if we can send this to full council and adopt a rate study so we can take it into consideration.
Okay.
Is that right, Joe?
Yeah.
You want to adopt, I guess what we're,
There's some understanding.
is just to adopt the rate study.
Because I know that there's some work that legal has to do on the next legs of this thing, depending on what your decision is. So the big thing is to adopt this and accept the information so we can,
That's all we're doing is accepting the information. We're not setting a rate.
future conversations will be coming forth.
And
On this now, so he's saying we go to 2250. Now, if we've done those other rate studies that everybody had voted on to do for CPI and all that other stuff, we'd be about there anyway.
We'd be about $1.25 short.
Mr. Chairman, so we're accepting the rate study, so then would, I guess, General Services, or who will then be coming forward with looking at the fees themselves for on General Services?
Fees will go to General Services. What I do want to say, it may be an immediate referral to General Services, because if we want to make the January 1st deadline that's anticipated here, this needs to move expeditiously.
Well,
I was just going to say, General Services, maybe there needs to be a recommendation from us going to them to get that. I think it can go without even a recommendation from us. It just needs to.
Yeah, it's, as far as procedure from the council goes, adopting the rate study is fine, but there's no need for adoption to get a resolution in place to increase the fees. But that should, if it needs to be heard before a committee, the fee increase should be heard by General Services.
But if we don't adopt this, we don't have enough money to pay for what we're doing now.
Correct.
I mean, that's all. I mean, we're already in the hole.
we're adopting the study
Oh, that's all we're doing.
to use that as
As a tool.
a source to implement the rate increase. That's true. But, yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, one of the things that I agree with this study, except for I'm not liking the tiered approach. I think we take the bite and just go to the top. But the other portion of it is we have code or codified in our code that we CPI adjustments that should have been made that haven't been made, correct?
That's what my understanding.
Okay, so we're going to have to address that too. Otherwise, we have to implement those CPIs that weren't made and this, and I don't agree with both of them.
Well, I don't think it's one or the other. I think you can go in, and this is going to be done at General Services Committee, I guess.
What it sounds like.
From what I'm understanding, everybody's thinking is that you can adopt this. The mayor points out that if we'd already increased the rates by CPI as provided in our rules, actually the laws of the city of Roswell, then we may have to tweak it a little bit. So we've still got, we adopt the study to use it to make calculations based on the study. We're not adopting the rates right now the way he outlined them, because that's the General Services Committee will study that. Hopefully they can get it done in a meeting. I don't know. This is pretty heady stuff. So
What I'm saying though is legal needs to address the CPI that hasn't been done, and we have to do that by not a resolution. It has to be actually an ordinance that we either do not do the CPIs that should have been done and start with the next year and then adopt this rate study. I'm not going to vote for a rate study in this increase and have that CPI increase. Do you understand what I'm saying?
General Services Committee?
No, I'm not.
Counselor? Well, go to that meeting. That's not what this vote is.
But I'm just recommending legal needs to be addressing.
Right, because this was.
And that's going to take 2 months where this takes 1 month as a resolution.
Mr. Chairman, Counselor, that's incorrect. So the rate, the CPI is below the rate increase. So the goal of the rate increase is to get us to a set number. The CPI increases wouldn't necessarily be subsumed. That said, as a matter of law, the rate increases should have been done yesterday. Tomorrow morning, they should be done, in my view.
Right, but and that's what I'm saying is I'm not going to vote for a rate increase if the CPIs are going to come around.
Yeah, I think what Councilor Foster's saying is because those were not put through, that there should have been some form of resolution suspending those. Is that what you're saying?
It can't be a resolution because it's code.
Or an ordinance. It's got to be an ordinance should have been done to suspend those, and it wasn't done. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
And I happen to agree with Councilor Foster.
And that's a 2 month process where this is a 1 month process.
Well,
I won't vote on this unless I know that the ordinance.
that we're correct in our ordinance. I agree with you. And if it takes 2 months, it takes 2 months.
And if we can get it done by December, we're good.
Yeah.
Because January is when we're talking about this.
Right.
So that's what I'm just saying. And that's why I'm bringing it up.
I would think that conversation is better placed whenever this is just what we're looking for is adoption of this, the study. And I think we need to do that. And then the actual either or is what you're concerned about.
Correct.
I agree. I don't think you can't, it's hard to unwind the clock or reverse the clock. So a decision needs to be made to either implement the CPI, and that may even be tweaked to cover your other concern is instead of doing this year, the CPI is what, 9.3?
Is what we estimate, yep.
Yeah, then maybe it needs to be 9.5 or some other number as an adjustment.
Well, I think we're bound by the ordinance is what Councilor Foster is saying. Well, no matter what the number is, we're bound by that ordinance that has not been fulfilled. And I agree with him. So let's find out what that would be if we were to say this is the ordinance and all we're doing is ratifying what that ordinance says that should have been done that wasn't done. I think that's what you're saying. So what? And I don't disagree. And so
and then
I don't know whether you want now, are you on general services, Councilor Perry?
Deal with general services,
It's,
nobody hears on general services.
I believe Councilor Pace is the chair of Legal Services.
Well,
I mean, if we send this to him, I'm sorry, I want
Yeah.
to finish with it. That if we send this to him and then we got this other issue going on, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And they're going to sit over there and talk about rates. And I agree with Councilor Foster. We need to get our legal house in order before we talk about this rate study.
I have a question just from a state of confusion. What is the actual rate supposed to be at this time according to code? What would we actually consider?
if we'd implemented the two CPIs, I think
21, 25.
21, 25.
Okay, so if that table going up is based off of 1775 instead of the 20 where we're supposed to be, doesn't that throw off the whole rest of the enchilada? Because, I mean, if they're basing the next year on a percentage of 1775, and then the next, yeah. Am I making sense? Because that's what's confused me. If we should have been, he didn't actually use our real rate as far as what we should have been.
Well,
It was on the current.
Yeah,
It was at the current rate.
at the time we engaged the firm, it was 70-75. Without knowledge of the resolution 2048, it should be at 21-25. And if you're open to it, Juan or Chair, we can engage them again, start at the 21-25.
so,
And Mr. Chair, a question about that.
yeah, go ahead.
Well, had the rate been in place, those deficits wouldn't be what they are. And maybe his rate increase would not be where his saying the rate increase needs to be.
That's what.
Because his foundation that he used is 22. And I'm not saying his data is wrong, but had it been there, we may not be looking at 24.
Right.
So the loss,
We may be looking at CPI would have taken care of us.
so the total loss is at the bottom there. It's at 1.3.
Yeah, $1.3 million
We would have incorporated the.
in those 2 years. So if you adjust that out, CPI may have just taken care of everything that we needed to take care of.
I don't think it's either or. I think you just need to make a decision and move it on. And once one decision's made, then it negates the other decision that you brought up, Counselor.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, and it would be my recommendation based upon a conversation with many of you as well too, is that I believe the passage of the rate increase would actually correct the other stuff. And we would just we would ask the council to waive the CPIs for what was the missed timeframe. So the idea would be to move the rates forward the way the proposition is, and then we would have the conversation on the missed CPI.
Okay.
And that would fit, I think that fits your needs as well as, but I would also recommend, please approve the report. The report is accurate. The report is complete. And
When was this report? When did we first get a rough draft of this report?
February 7th, 2021.
This report?
The original report was February 7th, 2021, and was it 2021?
No,
No,
22.
I'm sorry.
There we go.
I didn't want to argue with you. But
Well,
If-
22. So it's just earlier this year. So
Well, it still, for some reason, seems to be dragging its feet. And so I guess what I'm asking for is a motion to accept the report. And it has to be accepted by the full city council. So, sir, Mayor.
Yeah, I really think when you look at this rate study, if nothing else, that tells us where we need to be. And I think anything else, when we talk about the last ones, if you make some statement, I'm not going to vote for this, if that, well, there's some of us in here that didn't vote on anything and didn't miss any of that stuff. So, I mean, let's not get into a deal where we say, I'm not going to vote on this if we do this. Nobody wants to put double CPIs on top of things. This rate study should fix what the current market levels are. And I think hopefully it should be addressed and moved to looking at the current rates of funds and everything else. So the CPI could be fixed in this report.
I agree.
But I don't want to say that, I mean, I can stand up all day and say, I didn't screw this last thing up. Last time, I did not implement, that wasn't me. Why should I have to do something, correct something somebody else did? Let's just take this thing and go with the rate study the way it is. And then leave all that other stuff behind us, you know?
Well, the bottom line is that we're almost $1.4 million short for whatever reason. I'm not going to point
Doesn't
fingers.
matter why. We gotta fix it.
Yeah, it's got to be fixed. However it's done.
I agree.
But I'm
And the
gonna-
council voted, if what was done by the council, it would have been done. We're in our, what, sixth person in our supervisor for,
Our sixth supervisor for utility billing.
and that's the person who's in charge of making sure the rate increase would happen.
Well, that's not a discussion for the.
But I'm just saying, I'm just saying, I won't be in favor of a double jeopardy for our citizens.
No, and I don't think any of us are. And I think I think you just gotta figure out a path, not A or B or a combination of A or B. Just let's figure out a path. And I'll certainly take on that responsibility, but I think it needs to go to general services first to let them wrestle with it.
But legal has to handle the other aspect of it.
Well, I mean, this is not a single track on
I
this thing.
understand.
There's going to be a lot of people look at this. And I suspect that it'll come back to this committee at some point. Everything kind of makes it circle around here, and that's the way it should be. I think the more people, more minds you have sitting at the table, the better product to come up with. That's my
We need to
basic
make sure
philosophy.
that general services knows what our intention is to go and not the other, not stack them.
That's right. You guys, make sure that they understand that they're in charge of figuring out the best path that they can figure out. And it may be tweaked somewhere else. I don't know. Yes, sir.
Chair, I just want to clarify, when I go to General Service Committee, did you want to still go on with the phased-in approach? Or did you want to look at the,
It'd be my recommendation to present study forward as written.
Yeah, and then let them fine tune it.
Then everybody can have that conversation when we get to that piece of it.
Yeah, I agree with that approach.
Okay.
I think
If I could just-
that we're mixing lots of apples and oranges here, so.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I've got to put on the record that there is no legal authority to ignore the CPI increases in the ordinance and immediately put them in.
But again, that's water that's already down the street. So,
No, it could be implemented tomorrow is what I'm saying.
well, I hear you. I understand the ramifications of what didn't get done. But the problem is it didn't get done. And whoever you want to blame, point fingers at, that doesn't matter. We're stuck with where we're at, not where we should have been.
Could general services also put in another ordinance at that time to repeal those?
Yeah.
And, or repeal the two that you had in there?
Because legal usually handles ordinances.
Well, that's what I say. There may be multiple committees look at this before it's finally made its way.
But as long as we repeal it before the ordinances, when it comes to vote before the whole council, we can understand if we have a motion to repeal those two ordinances in legal and it'll be at the next month's meeting, that's fine because it won't be implemented anyway.
And if I could just add,
Got some work, Mr. Chairman.
if I could just add, because you're right, you have to go through your committees, you got to make sure everything's proper. But just to be clear, from our view of this, I know there's this issue about the CPI adjustments. They didn't get made. Just to make it clear, one thought would be, and again, I'm not a lawyer or what you have to do, but the CPI, personally, I'd say it hasn't been put in place. Let's put these rate increases in effect. If these rate increases are put in effect over this, 4-year period, basically 2023 through 2026, the solid waste utility is then on good solid footing. And you could always look at doing the CPI and having that become effective again in FY 2027 if you so choose. That's just my opinion.
Well, that's a valid argument, but save it for the General Services Committee or legal, wherever this thing falls.
Mr. Chair, because
Probably both.
I think you can do that. You structure whichever, because what if inflation continues on and those rates are not right? So you've got to structure that wording so that his rate increase for 26 may be way off because inflation is there. I don't think we can adopt these rates all the way out. We've got to adopt a new base rate and then a CPI, I believe a CPI rate from that point on.
Yeah. And Mr. Chair, this is probably getting a little deeper than you want to get right now, but the CPIs will enact for water and sewer in January of each year. What we're talking about is the missed CPIs that were missed in the past. The CPI for solid waste right now is every July. So what we're talking about are the missed CPIs for that. There will be a CPI triggered. And so this will answer your question about what inflation is doing. It will trigger based upon how the ordinance is written currently.
And that's for you guys to.
That's right. And so
the committee, of course.
Yeah.
Not saying anybody has the best crystal ball, because I feel quite confident that General Services needs to look at this. And I think from their discussion, and you guys and me, because I'm on legal too, we'll look at it, massage it or do whatever. And depending on the mood at the time, it may come back here, it may go to the council. I mean, we've seen a lot of things kind of get shifted around here, and that's okay, because more people look at this, the better understanding we're going to have.
Mr. Chairman, as well, as you just said, you're on both those committees, as well as Councilor Hildebrand, Councilor Arnold. I believe, is that correct? Are you on legal?
Yes.
But then also you have Councilor Orpesa, who is also that chair of General Services. So that gives him that ability to see both sides of what's happening.
Oh, yeah. I think it's a workable plan. Now, if we get it done between now and January 1st, I don't know. I'm not going to bet any money on that. But at least it gives us enough time to work out the best plan, whatever that is. I don't think it's an A or a B deal. I think there's a C to get us on the right path. And you may take some from plan A and some from plan B to get to plan C. I mean, that's what compromise is all about. And so far, we've managed to compromise on a few items. So back on a motion, I'm looking for to accept this. And
Let
then,
me see that last column over there again, please, Mr.
okay, we've got some people that have some questions. We'll get to you in a minute. I'm sorry.
So you get out to 26, take the one for you at the end of that period of time. It'd only be $1 million down. Correct?
That's what it looks like, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, so we got some questions. We got a ton of questions.
First question, Mr. Chair, is how much the cost of the study?
What did we allocate for the study?
I don't know that, I didn't bring that PO with, I don't know if you remember when the cost of study was.
Okay.
I don't have it.
When we did the study, though, it was based upon all three enterprise funds. So we did not break it out, at least at that level, when we set the rate studies in place. So it was water, sewer, and
So we've got,
and solid waste. So we would have to go back and break that out.
what was the cost for those three? And we still got two more studies coming, or have they already been completed?
Dave, do you know the answer to that question on this first phase?
We were hired approximately 2 years ago to do this. It was approximately $110,000. And we are working to get the solid waste one completed. Water and wastewater work has been done on it, but it has been, quite frankly, on hold.
Okay.
So 110?
110 is what he said. Okay.
Right around that, so, yeah.
Okay. Anything else? All right.
No.
So we've got another question there. What?
You got several.
Some are questions, Mr. Chair, and some are just comments.
So are there other sanitation trucks for? Yeah.
Need to answer all those if we haven't.
And the life of a cell, if EPA has the estimate on the average life of a cell, I don't know.
EPA doesn't regulate the life of the cell.
Okay.
Right.
That's air quality.
No.
And I'll just say, you cannot, there's not a standard cell. I have clients that build cells that are 3-4 years. I have others that can go 8-10 years. It depends on the topography, how the landfill cells are going to be laid out, what you put in between.
Right.
So there's lots of variables. Kind of like what standard house cost.
Okay. There's a question about brake heights 2 years ago. There was some ordinances passed. I can't recall when they were passed. One was in.
I don't think there was a rate increase for solid waste at that time, was there?
It was a resolution 2048 in August 13, 2020. The verbiage in the actual resolution states fees across the entire solid waste department should have been raised.
Okay.
So that was in April, August.
But it didn't adjust them.
No, it instructed to adjust them, we never did.
Right.
So I guess the problem, one of the problems we're grappling with on this is that those fees were put into ordinance. But it had
the resolution, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, in August of 2020, there was an ordinance that provided that fees shall be set by resolution, but in the ordinance it contained the mandatory CPI increases. CPI increases were never changed in the ordinance since 2012. They were supposed to take effect in July 1st of each year.
Okay. So that's part of the problem we're grappling with because they weren't ever utilized.
Right.
Okay. And how am I doing on my questions there? Are we getting through most of them?
One more at the bottom.
I think that's it.
Let me make sure it doesn't again.
Excellent question, and we're going to work on that. The question is, will there be any accountability for not implementing the rate hike? How do we make sure this won't happen again? That is part of the situation that General Services and Legal Committee need to wrestle with, not finance. And yes, those hopefully will be addressed, but as we've all been painfully shown, things still fall through the crack.
Mr. Chair, they will be addressed, yes, and that'll be covered with all the city council as in each of our committees. We are using a dual check and balance system as of now. Utility billing, it's within the job corruption there, but now the department heads will be responsible to make sure that there's a conversation, a correlation between finance or utility billing and the department. So,
okay.
But we'll have those conversations to formalize the verbiage as to how that's going to be.
So there's a check and balance already started, but it hadn't been codified yet.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll take care of that. Did I cover all those questions? Did we get them all done? Okay, I'm getting an indication.
We ready for motion?
Yeah, I've been.
I make a motion, we send to full council, the recommendation to approve the new Gen Strategies and Solutions Solid Waste Cost of Service Study.
Second.
Whose turn is it for second here? I don't want to get out of step. All right. I've got a second. Councilor Foster. Any other? We've discussed this pretty good. Got lots of good questions, but hopefully it'll be ironed out in other committees. So is there any opposition? Hearing none, passes unanimously. Huh? What?
Why that take so long?
Well, everybody else has got time on their hands. We've been in this meeting now for almost 2 hours, and we still got a lot of stuff to go. So
They're picking
are
up.
you hungry? Do you need to take a lunch break or something, dinner break? Okay. Okay. All right, here we go. Advertising agreement.
All right, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, this request is to ask you to amend the 3 advertising contract. A little bit of background, the 3 advertising contract is used out of lodger's tax, which is that 40% of collections on marketing and advertising per our state statute 33816. The 3 advertising contract was awarded in January of 2020 under the RFP of 20-002. The Air Center received the NMDOT Air Service Marketing Assistance Grant in the amount of $200,000. The grant requires a 50% state and 50% city match on allowable costs for marketing and promotion. To expend the full grant amount, the city would match allowable expenses up to $200,000 for a total marketing program for the Air Center marketing of $400,000. The marketing program is to be split between fiscal year 23 and 24. And for fiscal year 23, the Air Center has an allocation of $100,000. 50,000 from the state, 50,000 from the city of those grant funds towards the Fly Roswell marketing service, leaving a balance of the grant of 150,000 for next fiscal year. This graph shows you how I would intend to break down that $100,000 between outdoor, digital, our creative admin fees. And so the action that I'm asking is to approve the amendment to increase the 3 advertising contract from our 235 amount to 335, with that 100,000 to be used for a specific Fly Roswell marketing and promotion. And that's correct. And I will stand for any questions.
Mr. Chairman, just ask, I see on the abstract that board and committee action that legal had sent it here. Was that with the recommendation to approve or just to send?
No, just to be here.
Okay, just to be. Okay.
Any other questions?
This is in the budget.
Yes.
It's a budgeted item.
$100,000 it is in the budget.
It is in the budget.
Yes.
Okay.
And again, please realize that we will be getting $50,000 back. And that, so we'll be receiving that once we spend the full $100,000.
How long is this campaign? When it?
Through June 30th, because we have to expend the money by the end of the year. So we would build out outdoor 30,000. That would be 4 months probably. The digital would probably start as soon as we would get started through the end of the year.
It's an annual campaign.
Annual, yeah.
So I'm just trying to match the expense with the dollars. The dollars don't come in.
Yeah, and with this type of a grant, we'll spend the 100,000 and we'll have to reimburse back the 50. And so this is an annual campaign.
Yeah.
So it'll go throughout the entire year for the Fly Roswell campaign.
And Mr. Chair, committee members, so the grant agreement is for 2 years from the day that it was executed, which was in August of 2022. So we have till 24.
So
The grant funds.
So we won't receive any more money for next year. So it is a 2.
No, I mean, we will. This is what I'm saying. The grant agreement is a 2-year agreement. So the balance will carry into next fiscal year.
Are you done?
Yep.
Anybody else? Do you have any questions from the folks listening in?
No.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Arnold, do you have any questions? Anybody else? Okay. What's your pleasure?
It's my turn. Okay. Mr. Chair, I move that we consider recommending the approval to amend the 3A advertising agreement for an additional $100,000 for a contract total of $335,000 fiscal year 23 with an additional $100,000 dedicated to and from the Air Service Marketing Grant Agreement, as well as approve the purchase order.
Okay.
Second.
Got a second?
Sorry.
Got a motion and a second. Any objection? Passes 4-0. Okay, now, with you all, unless there's objection, I think we need to talk about 8 and 9 simultaneously.
Absolutely.
Any objection? Okay, hearing none. We'll do 8 and 9 as a unit.
Also just copy the slides.
Be kind about that.
So we requested a quote for roof repair and a separate quote for roof maintenance. The roof maintenance quote is designed to maintain the roof at its current condition, which identifies the leaks and corrects those within the parameters of preventive maintenance. So it's just taking the roof that has many, many leaks and a new leak last night. Yeah, rah-rah.
It rained a little bit.
It did, and we got a new leak. It just addresses those, it just takes the roof and does not make it any better. The roof repair quote is designed to repair the roof. So I feel like these two go hand in hand. This project was not budgeted in the library budget. It was not budgeted in the facilities budget. So I do need to tell you very clearly that this project would be a budget increase. If you want to go to, do you have any questions? Going to the next slide, I'm going to let Jason take over. So take it away.
Just.
My grandmother called me Jason for 20 years.
I looked at Counselor Perry and I said the wrong part. I am so sorry.
That's okay. So the picture on your left, right front and center is a clogged roof drain. That's the roof drain, the primary roof drain. And behind it is the secondary roof drain. So when the primary drain doesn't drain, that roof will collect water up to where the secondary drain takes over. So that roof holds water in that space approximately 20 feet out past that drain. Now, that surface it does not like to be submerged for very long. It's very good in reflecting heat energy and it's really good at moving the water, but it's welded pieces of rubber. And so when it's submerged for extended periods of time, it will eat away at the rubber. The rubber will get loose and that's where we get leaks. Now that changes with the age of the roof. Brand new roofs don't do it as fast. Older roofs, if it's been there for 20 years baking in the heat, we're going to have issues. So this is where the SmartCare roof preventative maintenance takes over because it will deal with things like that. They remove the debris from the roof and they clean out our roof drains. In fact, I did bring this down. So this is a list of all the things that the SmartCare roof preventative maintenance covers on the second page there. Yeah, the second page. So those are all the things that are covered under the SmartCare. And there's a lot to it and a lot more than what my team can handle. Now, moving forward, my team is doing some work on doing our own preventative maintenance, but not to the level that those folks are qualified to do it at. What we're going to be doing is removing debris from the roof. But these guys what they're going to be doing is checking the scuppers themselves, checking the seams, the welded seams. And you'll see in the second picture there, that's block wall next to the membrane. And so when that holds water, now we've got water permeating through a porous surface, which adds to the roof leaks that we're getting because it allows the roof to hold water and then permeate through the block. You can go to the next one. So that is another primary drain. That is on the east side. Yes.
It's on
the east side. So that is the whole east side. And we've got a bunch of leaks on there. So again, you can see the discoloration of the membrane itself. Because it's holding water. Now, since this picture is taken, we have gone up and we have cleaned those off, but that's years of this is what has caused some of the leaks. So all the leaks in the membrane are caused by the roof drains not being cleared.
And this was a nice sunny day several days after it rained.
Yeah. Yeah, so that holds water for quite a while. Next slide. And more, so what you'll see is now that that drain has dried out, it's concrete hard. We were looking at dirt blown in from wind and off tree debris. And so that one does not drain. We had to clear that one with a screwdriver. And that held water for 2 weeks by the time we finally got to it. So the rubber underneath that is in poor shape. To the picture on the left, you'll see areas of the block wall where it meets the membrane. Those are areas that the Smart Care roof preventative maintenance will cover. So that the fee, the $11,000 price tag on the preventative maintenance covers twice a year this company to come up and clean the roof drains, make minor repairs and check for things like that and make those repairs on that cost without charging us then for anything in addition to that. So that's something that happens twice a year. And again, we just see more. So now, like I said, not all of those things, the roof's leaks are not all caused by the membrane. That's part of the parapet wall over the west side of the building. And that's water comes in there and we see it leak out of the block at the bottom and then the wall at the bottom. And one to your left is just more block wall. There's a really nice looking concrete brick and stone wall there, but when it meets the membrane, the water gets between it because it's porous. The rock is, the concrete is. And because the roof is holding water in those locations because of the roof drain issues, we have had leaks there before. And so now it's eroded parts of the rubber in the seams and there's areas of caulking that goes in there too. So it's eroded a lot of that away. So we've got now, even since we've cleared the roof drains, we're still having ongoing leaks from the membrane because of it. Next slide. So this would also be covered by the Smart Care. Now that's not the roof, that's the ground. But so you can see on your left picture, there is a rim that goes around there, and that is a roll-on, like a nylon type roll-on that they've dug down below the surface and applied that there so that we don't have water seeping up through the concrete in the floor, which we were having. So that is also covered under the Smart Care. They would maintain that and continue to maintain that without a charge for that. And then the picture on the right is up against the wall, kind of a weird angle, but there's glass window there, and that's the seam between the concrete and the glass window. So that seam right there is something that will be covered under the Smart Care also. It's not the roof. They don't only do roofs. They do a lot of stuff that has to do with buildings leaking. And that's it.
We're asking for approval for this project, and it would include a budget increase.
So, questions?
My first question is twice a year adequate? Because
for this level, yes. Now, my team we've started our preventative maintenance program that every 3 months, my team will go and be making sure that roof drains are cleared so that we don't have the standing water issues. So that's 4 times a year from us. And then these folks are for twice a year for the more, intricate and more roof related stuff that my team is just not capable of handling. We can clear the roof drains and we can make sure that those are all running clearly, but it's this kind of stuff that we can't handle. And twice a year, I do think that would be okay.
And this is just for 1 year.
Yes.
So it'd be ongoing. We're looking at almost $1,000 a month.
Yes. We have done this in the past. I learned that we had these Smart Care for the whole city or 30 some odd buildings. And I did get a quote for that. I'm sorry, I didn't bring it up for it. But it covers the same repairs for 30 some odd buildings in the city, and it does the same thing. And so because this is not the only building that we have that has roof problems.
Was that $30,000 a year estimate or for that?
No, the total for all the buildings?
$30,000 a month. I mean,
no.
You said 30 some odd buildings.
30 some odd buildings, yeah, total, and that they would cover for us and that they have done in the past.
How much is that?
142.
142,000 for all 30 buildings?
Twice a year for that. And it's whatever kind of surface that's there. So they deal with EPDM, which is the old black rubberized, and then the new TPO type. And they also deal with the concrete block and the rock type roofs. And then also that's like a tar paper type sand.
And so that would include the library with those 30?
It could, yeah. When I go to council with this, and I'll be bringing this to council for next budget year for the whole city. But Ms. Enid's right now is because she's done the homework and she's here now ready to do it now.
Let me ask a question then. If we do the roof repair, which is the next item you're talking about.
Yes, sir.
Would this work need to be done when? This maintenance work?
Not immediately.
Could it be postponed?
It could be.
Do the roof.
Yes.
Repair.
Yes.
Then we could postpone this maintenance until next year and not really damage ourselves.
I would agree with that. Yes.
Except with the roof repair, would it cover this issue?
No, that would not cover that. The roof repair was only for the roof. It wasn't for anything else. No.
Thank you. I'm glad you're here.
So, but I know we're getting, because the other thing I would look at before we do the 11,000, I would look at seeing if we needed to really do the 140,000 for all the buildings and not pick it apart and do one building at a time.
Right.
And since we're already going to do the repair, we might need to get an estimate on what it's going to be to fix this.
Well, right now, none of this stuff, excuse me, right now, none of these things are causing leaks right now. Those are repaired, but those are things that would be covered under the smart care.
Okay. What you're saying is these things are not imperative to be done right now to stop the leaks.
That's true. Yes, it's just the roof repair. The roof repair is the thing that is causing us.
Roof replacement just needs to take place.
Well, it's a roof repair.
It's not a replacement. It's not a replacement.
The 69,000 is.
It's just a repair, yes.
It's to repair the.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have a copy of that. Yeah.
Let me ask you in your estimation, is that roof repair adequate enough? Does the whole building need to be re-roofed?
I think that repair would be adequate. The surface itself is in good shape. I had the fella came up and he gave me the quote. He walked it, he fixed it at, some of the areas, and in the main body of the roof surface itself is in good shape. It's the areas that collected and held water, which are the areas that he's been addressing. Yes.
Okay.
Our ranch has block walls like that. They're all rocks and they have concrete. And anytime you come up that wall, if it's not up, really, if you don't go up to the top of the wall with your PPO or whatever it is, if you don't go up all the way to the top, you're going to have a problem with leaks. If you go down and hits on that stuff, and it'll all that PPO down there always pulls away from the rock and it goes right down the wall. And so you got to go up to the top up there where you had that crack all the way down. So you got to go up to the top and you got to seal that roof up there on the top. And if you don't do that, you're always going to have leaks. Oh, and anytime somebody gets on that roof, you need to make sure they walk on it. And if there are no nuts, there are no rocks or twigs or anything on that roof, because if you step on it, it'll go right through that roof.
I'm sure.
And so there has to be a lot more maintenance in that. But that roof used to have tile up there, and then about 2 years ago or something, they changed it and didn't they put metal up there?
That was the Bondurant roof. And yes, it was leaking. The Bondurant roof was leaking. I'm allergic to mold, so I go in there and you can smell the musty. You don't smell that now. We had water coming down either into the Bondurant room or into the other side of the Bondurant room. We had water coming in through in our storage rooms. When they took off the Spanish tile, there was a lot of leaves underneath it. So there was some care that wasn't taken to the roof. And yes, they did take off the Spanish tile and they did put in on a steel roof.
And so that's not leaking?
That is not leaking.
Oh.
We have leaks other places.
Yeah, well, all this stuff, it almost seems like it needs to be re-roofed, but you really need to get your trees and anything that drops on top of that leak, you really need to get that off. Yeah.
Let's get this thing
You're
going.
gonna have to keep doing the drainage. Somebody needs to go up there, either with a big blower or something, blow it over the roof or somewhere. Don't do it, you'll never keep it, but you've got to go up those walls. If there's walls, anything that gets those bricks, it will soak down through it, especially if it stands.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, I'll just tell you where I'm at with this whole two issues here. I'm inclined to look at an annual contract on all the buildings, so I'm not in favor of doing this single contract for the smart care, but I am inclined, and I will tell you, the roof repair, I'm in favor of. So if we're talking about these two items, then, and I think, you know, you've got what you think or what a quote for all the rest of the buildings. I think you bring it back and let's get that on the table and let's talk about it. But I'm not inclined to do both of these things. I'm inclined to do the roof repair for $69,000.
And Mr. Chair, my question is, the 69,000, is it going to be a budget adjustment? Do we know where we're pulling it? Is it coming from capital? Do we have it in capital?
The budget adjustment will be coming in January and it would be coming out of the general fund available balance. When we look at the mid-year review.
But my question is, so this is holding
And
off
so,
till January?
no. So we will have to find it internally within the library fund and we'll have to kind of just.
There is no, it cannot.
The capital improvement fund to fund this project. And let's make this budget adjustment.
And we'll make a project.
You don't have any place to pull it from.
I've already taken money out of my already budget to get a new server HVAC and pay for a crane to get up on there and the air conditioner for the children's side isn't working, so I've taken that out of my maintenance. I don't know that I'm going to have money to pay for replacing lights, but I have to get these things taken care of because that keeps our building open.
Mr. Chair, committee members, we'll be using 2601, the capital improvement fund, which usually that's where we cover some of these non-enterprise fund projects. And library has some of those projects in that fund, so we'll use that fund. And then we'll come back in January for a budget adjustment to increase that fund, that amount.
Mr. Chair, I don't know how to do both of them. I'll make a motion for number 8. I'll make a motion for us to, you make a motion not to.
No, you can't, you're not supposed.
I don't think you have to take any action. Yes.
Just make a
If they're
motion.
not going to act upon one, they just bypass it, right?
Just make a motion and you won't get a second. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we consider approval for the $69,334. Send to full council or send to,
I think you want to take number 8 first, do you not?
if we don't do anything.
You don't take any action. What Hess said is you just don't take any action.
make a
You just skip
motion.
it.
Mr. Chair, if there's a motion and no second, it dies.
But if we can make a motion and no second, it'll be
Or
fine.
you could table it perpetually. But that one, the first.
Just make a motion.
Yes, make a motion.
So you'd like that.
Oh, okay. Mr. Chair, I make a motion to send to full council to put on the consent agenda approval of the $11,502.17 to maintain the roof at the library.
Do I have a second? Hearing no second, it fails.
Mr. Chair, I consider to send to full council to put on the consent agenda approval of $69,334.60 to come out of the capital improvement fund 2601 to make roof repairs for the Oswald Public Library.
Second.
I've got a motion and second to approve the 69 consent calendar. Any objection? Hearing none, it passes. Making some notes here, excuse me. Okay,
Thank you.
number 10. Well, there's an increase.
Thank you. Did you say Jason again?
I did that out there. No, I'm going to give you.
I know.
Quick cracking jokes. So here we go. We're here talking about an additional cost for the 12-yard dump truck and snowplow with snowplow beds. So who's got this item?
That's me,
Okay,
yes. Good evening, everyone. We originally purchased this or tried to purchase this dump truck in 2021, but we all know that the supply chain has kind of dried up and the original cost was $185,191.50. But now they sent us an updated quote for $206,279.50. It doesn't violate the price agreement because they're putting in a surcharge. There's a $13,500 surcharge for the truck itself and $7,588 surcharge for the snowplow. The Air Center has told me that they are going to take this out of their current budget increase, but I have not told them what line item.
yeah, I know. I'm not sure anybody knows.
I think Mr. Fuentes could probably.
We're taking it out of library. They're gone. It's gone.
If approved,
Going in there and buying, trying to get in there now.
approved, Mr. Chair, then we will work to get the funding pulled in for this increase.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, my question is, if we approve it, are we going to get it? Or are we going to wait another 6 months and it's going to go up again?
It's set to build in December.
Okay. I was like, because if we wait another 6 months and it's another 20,000, I have a problem with that.
Let's get a signed contract and lock in the fee.
Yeah.
This time. All right, what's your pleasure?
Make a motion, we send to full council recommendation to approve the authorization to increase the PO number 222-00895 from 185, 191.50, 206, 279.50 as presented in the abstract.
Did you want to go consent on that? You want full council?
I'm okay with it going to consent.
Only 21,000.
I'm okay with that going to consent for sure. Yes, so consent.
Well, I will second that then.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Any objections? Hearing none, passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got, who's on for the,
You get to see me twice.
Hey.
Now we're going to start this out with, if it's a good idea, it was mine. If it's a bad idea, it was Janie's.
Okay.
Oh. I hear the bus coming down the road. One of you getting underneath that
you're
thing.
probably going to pay for that.
I'm just going to go. So what we're asking for is, we talked earlier that we have a purchasing limit of $60,000 before we can, and anything over that we have to take to the council. We're having problems because of the supply chain of being able to get our orders in a timely fashion. So what we're doing is we're asking for you guys to authorize purchases up to this amount without having to come back to the council. We're asking for spending authority. We're not asking for an open check or a blank purchase order. We'd still do the purchase orders like normal and everything. Janie would be the check and balance on those. And even if you guys would like, the warehouse can furnish you guys a report every month on what we spent using this authority that we're asking for.
Mr. Chairman,
And he's looking at doing purchase orders in increments of 50,000 at a time because it's items that he's going to use to stock the warehouse.
We don't want to tie up all of our cash on hand by, issuing a $500,000 purchase order. We just want the authority to go up to that amount to make purchases or warehouse inventory.
Mr. Chairman, we ran into a similar situation when COVID started striking, being able to go through the process to get vehicles, even whether that be police or fleet, whatever that is. In the amount of time it took to go through the committee and then get to full council, those cars were gone. They were just gone. The cars were purchased. Ed probably knows this better than anyone before they were even hitting the lot in a lot of cases. So we went ahead and made a approval of up to X amount so that when those cars were being advertised, we could make an immediate purchase and not have to go through that process. So I think that we're just living in those days. This is just something that's just necessary.
One of the things that's come up a couple of times is we'll have, our supplier, Core and Main or somebody, they'll call up, hey, this contractor didn't need these parts. They're on your list of stuff that you need. If you can tell us you'll buy them now, we can send them to you. And we've talked to Janie, and if we need to, we can get a purchase order issued through the finance office that day to take care of items like that.
She didn't have anything else to do.
So you're issuing these, you just want a blanket authority because you're going to keep it in stores.
Yes.
And pull it off the shelf when you,
And that's when it hits somebody.
That's when you'll get an expense and it'll budget.
Yes.
Okay. Let me ask you just a sidebar question. You've got the stores inventory. Do we have any arrangements with any of the local plumbing contractors or whomever to allow them to pull from your stores?
No, we're not allowed to do that.
By
state law.
State statute, yeah, state.
Are we allowed to sell to them?
No. The only way that we can do that is you guys have to declare it surplus. And then we have to auction it because it's a city asset.
Yeah, I get it. I'm just trying to understand if we had, the supply chain disruption is hitting everybody. And so you could have
Have you not behind the scenes done that?
I would never do anything like that.
down payment.
We have.
In an emergency, we will.
Yeah, there's that bus. I hear another bus. Why is that? There's two buses right here.
The way you could structure it is through an RFP where they would agree to reimburse us for things already with it, but that have to be part of a proposal.
Have to set up a system for it.
Typically, what will happen is if it's an emergency, they will order it, have it shipped to us, and then we will give them what we have on the shelf.
Yeah.
But our problem right now is our inventory is so low,
right,
that we're not letting anything off the shelf because we don't know if we're going to need it or not.
just curious.
Yeah.
So is there an inventory somewhere?
Not locally, not.
No.
A list.
Warehouse.
Yes. And that's what this is asking for funding to do, is to keep that inventory stocked.
Well, I'm not asking for this in the next 30 days, but two things I'd like to have some kind of presentation on in the future is what our current inventory is, what your bare minimum inventory is. So we have an idea where we're standing at any kind of given time.
And we have a brand new inventory control program that we put in place, and it tells us all of that.
So you ought to be able to walk out in the hall and get it for me right now.
Well, no, but if you wanted it really quick, I could have it by tomorrow afternoon.
Okay.
And he says he's got 10 valves out there and he can go count, he's got 10 valves.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what the guys have been doing lately is we have an ongoing inventory. And they check to make sure that their numbers are correct. And the two guys over there are very,
Well,
they're kind of grumpy.
Getting close to this for your Mr. Manager, we need to verify what the computer says is actually there too. Correct. I mean, you do that in business.
And we do that. That's kind of a constant process over there.
Okay.
They'll take a section of shelves and go through and do a spot inventory and make sure that we're in good shape.
Mr. Chair, the mayor had something to add.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You know, for 20 years, I ran South Spring, their water system, because nobody else could do it. And they have 6-inch transite pipe, they got 4-inch transite pipe, they've got, was it ductile iron or whatever they call it, they've got C900, they've got just regular pipe. And, you know, sometimes when something breaks, or a fire plugs, I mean, we've had fire plugs and stuff, when something breaks, it's almost impossible to find an inventory anywhere. And if you've got 30 homes out there that don't have water, you have a problem. Now, our system, when I started, it wasn't. Now it's more reliable than we're in the water. And I would just tell you that it was, in the past, I know they have, if you would go and order the parts, and they would let you get one of their transite 4-inch or 6-inch transite fittings. I mean, a lot of the compression couplings and things are all the same. You just have a different gasket in the middle. But, you know, they would let you do that because the city has some on hand. Right now, it's extremely difficult to find anybody with any inventory anywhere.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it was all extremely helpful if they could order one and have it shipped to the Roswell thing. And so as soon as it comes in, from whatever supplier, I mean, people weren't opposed to buying it or anything else. It allowed 30 some homes to have water in South Springs. And so I don't know, they're not city residents, no, but they all stop here. And it's the same, you know, they help different things. The rural fire departments often cover a lot of stuff. We don't, you know, a lot of the rural ranches don't need, you know, $1 million fire truck because you got Lebrino and Alderman Cave. But, you know, but they all have to pay for it. So sometimes it's all the 600 people who work at Lebrino, the right Major County farmers and ranchers pay for those. But, you know, I don't know. All I'm saying is that to me, I think if it's at all possible, there needs to be some way worked out where they can order it and figure it out. There's needs for that stuff all the time. And I mean, there's just nobody, you got to either drive to Dallas or maybe Albuquerque, Mike, or Phoenix somewhere to get stuff.
And with situations like that, it all depends on what I've got on the shelf. Because my first responsibility is to the city.
I understand that. I'm not asking you.
But if we have 20 of them on the shelf and somebody needs to borrow one, Janie doesn't know about it, but we work with people. We do.
Well, I mean, you can order it. I mean, nobody doesn't want to know you, but I mean, well, this is one of those cases that happens.
And that's been the way it works the best, is they just replace it. And you don't have to worry about billing them and all that other stuff.
Well,
and it doesn't happen very often. It really doesn't.
No, but every once in a while, you just got to be neighbors sometimes.
Yeah.
Just don't tell anybody.
Nope.
This isn't an open meeting, right?
I didn't hear any of
Not being recorded.
that.
Well, all right, we may want to look at this if somebody thinks we need a more formal, which would probably get us into some real problems with state law, but
I think that the way we have it here is covered. I think we're good. I would just say, I think just for those checks and balances, it would be good for us to get a report, whether that's quarterly or whatever you think that is, to see where we are, how this is being spent would be wise servants, harmless stuff.
yeah. Do we need I don't think we need a monthly report, quarterly.
Oh, no, yeah, whatever report you need.
Yeah, quarterly report.
It's very easy. I think on those supply
Under
parts,
non-action items.
you create a lease agreement with them. They can lease it from you.
Could do that. You could make it that way. Okay.
You need to remember that we're all in this together because, there's an awful lot of water that's drained off the city of Roswell into, like into South Springs. All that stuff is all stuck on the other side of the city of Roswell property and it's all drained out through the county. And I mean, it's not supposed to do that. You're supposed to maintain your own water. But that's what. So, I mean, it's good to be neighbors.
Yeah.
No.
All right. What's your pleasure? I think we understand the scope of this.
Yeah.
And he's got a good inventory system he's working on.
Yeah.
It's your turn, Counselor.
I just finished one, but I'll do it if that means.
Mr. Chair, I move that we consider recommending approval of a warehouse inventory purchasing authorization request as stated by those suppliers that we issue purchase orders for.
Second.
I got a motion, a second. Any further? All right. Any opposed?
It was a good idea.
That was a great idea.
Thank you for bringing that forward.
I think you really should. Leasing agreement that falls inside the city guide or the state guidelines. These people do come and ask for you. You're inside the law.
Oh, I'll work with the city attorney on that.
Okay. I bet they can figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No. He strongly said this was Then one of those, don't talk to me about it. I don't want to hear it and I certainly don't want to see it. Item 12, manhole project. I think we talked about this the last meeting.
Yes, sir. We sure did at the September 1 meeting.
Yep. And so we're just, what you're asking for, let me see if I can get us back on track, is to move money out of the manhole cover project and use it at the wastewater plant because you got some equipment that's in serious need of repair.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. Exactly.
Questions? See, I can speed up when I want to.
Let's make sure we get this agreement, work with the attorney and on these parts, where you'd be putting that stuff that comes out all those manholes and stuff out into the county. I get just a little added thing, let's work this out.
Duly noted, Mayor. What's your all's pleasure on the manhole cover? I mean, it's just a transfer of money.
Transfer. Mr. Chair, I make a motion to put on the consent agenda, authorization to transfer $100,131.75 out of the sewer manhole rehab project and transfer it to the, did it say which fund in the wastewater? This wastewater.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. To wastewater.
This will be a reallocation.
Reallocation.
Good. That covers it.
Second.
Okay.
Got a motion, a second. On item number 12, dealing with the transfer of funds, reallocation of funds within the current budget. Any objection? Are you going to vote? Any objection?
No.
Oh, okay.
I thought we already voted on it.
No, I was getting to that point whenever you guys started your own private conversation. All right, passes 4-0. Okay, on to the next item, which has to do with the HVAC system. This is ILEA, correct?
Yes, sir.
Item 13 and 14.
Yes.
And I will address item 13, 14 together. And again, this is also pursuant to the 60,000 requirement limit. It is for the new ILEA lease agreement, which requires the HVAC unit and equipment to be restored to maximum efficiencies. Honeywell International is a GSA contract, and they are proposing a new chiller to replace the existing one. 3 of the 4 compressors on the chiller have failed, and the unit is operating at 25% capacity. They did not find any communication device on the chiller to the building automation system. As you can see there, a BACnet communication card will be included with the new chiller and connected to the building automation system. And Honeywell has submitted two proposals excluding the sales tax. As you can see there, that's from their proposal. You're looking at the HVAC system of $554,800 and the fire alarm system upgrade of $166,400. This is a ratification of these two items because of the timing. We got the agreements executed. I believe Jenna, who's here, she emailed them to Honeywell. So they've already received them. So we are asking just for ratification of that action.
We had the mayor sign.
Have we approved this?
Yeah, it was just in the time frame for Honeywell to get their information done as well too. We had an October 1 deadline. And so the mayor went ahead and signed the documents. We just need the ratification that the mayor was allowed to sign the document.
If you don't, does he go to prison?
He left.
Just a question.
We'll think about it. But so this was the only way to actually keep the project moving the way it was supposed to, the intent of the council, I think.
Okay, so is this inclusive of the 400 and something thousand we've already approved? Or is this in addition to that 400?
No, this is part, the 400,000 is part of this because it was the original estimate and then of course it increased.
Right.
This is a corrected price.
Okay, all right. And the airport has sufficient budget to absorb this because we've already got a contract with the.
Well, and this will probably be a budget adjustment in January, but I mean, we'll have to cover that.
The funding is coming in from ILEA because they paid up front on that lease agreement with the city.
It's 300,000.
Yeah, it's just part of it.
300,000 short.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
as we discussed, as I recall, you said the money was there because we had 500,000 our projected carryover for 23, the way the budget sits. All that conversation.
I believe that's the way the
And
conversation.
so we said we had 300,000 here, so there should be no need for budget adjustment.
Well,
Or I think we have to allocate,
200,000.
I think we have to allocate the
All
money.
we have to do is allocate it.
Yeah.
Because if your numbers are right, there's money's there.
Right.
well, I'm sure we'll hear about it in January.
We'd recommend the approval of this, so.
Right, and just so you
Yeah,
know, I believe ILEA, the company will provide us the $400,000 upfront once they have executed that agreement. I'm not sure if that money is already in this year's budget or we'll have to include it as an increase.
The 400,000 is included.
Okay, so that's already.
You've got it in there already.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, any shortage that we may have will recover next year. This is,
Follow.
yeah, win-win, and we've already got a signed lease, correct?
Correct.
So we got to do it. So what's the pleasure?
Councilor Perry.
Ready? I think we all stopped talking. I make a motion that we send to full council for recommendation to approve authorization with Honeywell International to repair and upgrade the HVAC system to building 500 located at 47 Gale Terrace Street in the amount of $554,800.
You don't want to do it as one motion?
I think separate items.
They're on, they're separate. Second.
Got a motion second. Any opposed? Passes 4-0. Councilor Perry.
Make a motion that we send to full council recommendation to approve the authorization with Honeywell International GSA contractor to repair and upgrade the fire alarm system in building 500 located at 47 Gale Harris Street, in the amount of $166,400. Second.
Got a motion and second. Any opposed? Passes 4-0. All right, now we're down to change order.
Mr. Chair, committee members, this is a change order for $36,542 for Faith Group LLC, who are currently assisting the airport in preparing a revised airport security plan. A requirement of the ASP requires a facility survey in which road does not have an accurate nor complete set. This survey is required for the completion and approval of the ASP. And again, we did have a call with Faith Group as well as our attorney helping us make sure we address all of these security issues with this plan. And they are requiring, obviously, this task order to be able to make it a complete, thorough study that they will be providing us. They will be providing digital copies of all the layouts and the information that will be used by our airport security coordinator.
Is this a reimbursable by anyone?
No.
It's out of pocket, but
I'm not sure. We do have a federal grant that might be for operating expenses. We can look into that and see if we can get reimbursed through that method. But it's not a grant specifically for this.
but we do have that operating expense, because I think we already took some of that operating expense money for the ILEA building. So I guess we probably should have an accounting where you're going to sit with that money, that grant. Right. So do you follow that?
Yes. Go ahead. Sorry.
That grant that you're talking about, we've already committed funds under this ILEA contract to use some of those expenses against that grant. So I think what we need to know is where do we sit on that grant? How much money's left? We need an accounting of that.
Sure.
Because we just keep hitting it, and we may hit it negative.
Right.
So.
I believe this facility survey, we will have other uses for as well too, correct? So it's not just for the ASP, we'll be able to utilize it for a couple other things, so.
Okay.
Foster's question.
Mr. Chair, I do have a question.
Okay.
This is added on to what we're already paying Patriots, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that's why it goes over the 60,000. Because that's where I was looking at it. I'm going 36,000 is not over 60. So I'm not going, it has to, I mean.
But it's a change order to the existing contract.
Yeah, okay. It's a change order to existing.
Take your shoes off. All right, what's your pleasure? They're looking at you, so it must be your turn.
No, it's Ed's turn.
That's what I say.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I move that we consider recommending approval of a change order for $36,542 to Faith Group LLC for the Air Center Facility Survey.
Second.
About to call it for lack of a second. Program here. All right, I've got a motion and a second. Any objection? Passes 4-0. Okay, so we've got to go to public participation. Anybody left online?
Chat's open.
Looks like that's it.
Check off if we can see better.
Yeah, chat and then I'll let us
Go
know.
to the floor.
Yeah, we got that. I think we got everything done there. I hope we did. I don't want to read in the paper that somebody got cut off. That was a shot. I'll pay for that one, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody have any?
Is there anything you can update us about the airport situation? What I understand Juan's going to be handling,
Currently, we are, Juan is out there right now as administrative service director, just hold the administrative piece together. We have our security coordinator out there. We have helping with the security. We've got Jenna out there doing all the tenant relations. Martin is doing our building and grounds, and Lisa is handling the office. We are in the process of looking for an interim airport manager as we proceed with how we're going to do that, fill that position.
Comment? Okay. So we don't have anybody wanting to chime in from the public? Don't see anybody lighting up. Okay, I guess that objection, we're done.
If I did object, would that mean anything? If I did object, would that mean anything?
Did you hear anything? Did you?
No, there is one more important thing. I've got it written down here and I didn't bring it up. I apologize. We had a special meeting scheduled to talk about the airport enterprise funds. If there's not objection from the three of you here, I'd like to postpone that because of the situation at the airport.
You have no objection from me?
And we'll reschedule it as soon as we get our arms around that situation. You didn't want to do all that extra work, huh?
Jeannie, thank you for helping Robert.